part of a disinformation program is to plant individuals in organizations. This is common. The intelligence community, particularly CIA, is known for coming in with cults, planting them there, their own people, provocateurs, having them become leaders of the cult, and then control the cult. And also in these disinformation programs, they will plant somebody, that person will be a rabble-rouser, it'll give the government an opportunity and excuse to come after that particular organization. It's very common.
Ted Gunderson is a retired senior special agent in charge of the Los Angeles office of the FBI. Today, he's a private investigator, and renowned trial attorney F. Lee Bailey once dubbed him as unsurpassed by any in the country. Supporting theory number 1, we have presented 11 thought-provoking points. With the introduction of Ted Gunderson, we move to our theory number 2.
Similar to the position of so many others, Mr. Gunderson's lifetime of experience prevented him from believing the news stories about an info bomb being solely responsible for this enormous destruction. Then there was a perplexing situation of John Doe 2 being seen by so many witnesses that a $2 million prize tag was placed on his head. In early June, the Justice Department removed this reward offer, with Janet Reno saying at a news conference, John Doe is no longer a suspect.
John Doe 2 is a joke. I mean, the early news report said that John Doe 2 was seen with McVeigh in Michigan and in Kansas and in Arizona. And now the government comes up and says, oh, and also in Kansas he was seen renting the truck with him, right? Now the government's coming up, oh, it's just by coincidence that this particular person that they drew the artist's conception from happened to be in the rental shop at the same time, had nothing to do with McVeigh. This all doesn't make sense. And now the latest thing, as of this date, is that these are two guys, McVeigh and Nichols, out having a beer, decided they hate the government, went down there and blew up the federal building. That's a joke.
Why are the national media ignoring this real information? It appears to be factual that you and General Parton and others are uncovering. They're ignoring you, and they are chasing this apparent folly.
I don't think they're chasing anything. I think this is part of the disinformation program. I've penetrated...
So it's by design.
It's by design.
Investigator Gunderson alleges that he has, with others, infiltrated several clandestine organizations whose modus operandi is to compromise political figures and thereby dictate their voting behavior, a technique that has now been expanded to include key figures in the national news media to further the organization's own agendas. It is clear from Pat Shannon's own research that the national news media are aware of the major differences between the evidence and the official version of events in Oklahoma City. However, they still choose to support the official story, a shabby commentary on the condition of the Fourth Estate.
So as a result, these people, or some of these people, are running the news media. They're paying the bill, so to speak. So they're being, as far as I'm concerned, the mainstream media is being manipulated, maneuvered by the businessmen. They don't dare come forward with this 2 detonations and these other theories.
Ironically, according to Anthony Summers' new book about your former boss, J. Edgar Hoover, those are the tactics that he became infamous for using from about 1930 to 1970.
Well, let me put it this way. I don't think we have time to go into J. Edgar Hoover. I will defend him as a great leader, and he put a great organization together. We had no corruption, virtually no corruption at all when he was the head of the FBI. So I don't think we need to get off onto that subject, but I'll say this, that we didn't have the corruption in the...
Ted believes that often the national media will pretend to be interested in things that they really are not.
April the 26th, I learned that ABC Television and 4 other members of the media had been into the University of Oklahoma, obtained the information about the 2 detonations. Then about 2 weeks later, ABC TV came to town, called me from a motel, said they wanted to interview me and wanted my material. They couldn't meet with me right at that moment. They said they would talk to me later. And I said, well, in the meantime, I'll fax some material to you at the hotel room or the motel room. I did. I never heard from them again.
So they never did the interview?
They never did the interview. And I think that they were in town just to find out what I had, because this was early in the investigation. And I had been on a number of radio talk shows and so forth. Plus, I sent out, when this initially broke, I sent out a lot of information on my fax. In fact, I probably sent out over 200 faxes around the country. It was picked up and rerun. Also, it was on the internet. But it was, they didn't want to interview me. They didn't want this they only wanted this information to find out what I had, as far as I'm concerned. And ABC TV had this information earlier. They have never used it. The two detonations were mentioned, I understand, on one occasion on CNN, but they haven't been used since then.
Ted, it appears that the only way people are able to get the truth from this whole fiasco is from the underground network, so to speak. It seems that even the people in the highest echelons of government are participating in some kind of cover-up. Do you agree with that?
I agree 100%. We furnished our material to Senator Arlen Specter early in the investigation. I sent him a fax. Said, I'm former #2 man in the Philadelphia FBI. I was there when you were U.S. Attorney, and I've met him in the past when he was there as the U.S. Attorney. And I said, I have some very important, critical information for you. Please contact me. I haven't heard from him yet. This is several months ago. So, also the FBI, we furnished this information to the FBI. About 10 days after I furnished it to the FBI, I received a phone call. The agent said, I received this fax. You want me to send it to other FBI field offices around the country? I said, well, you can do what you want to do. I sent about 200 of them out. I don't think it's going to make any difference one way or another now. But in the end, the bottom line was he wanted to know where I lived and what my phone number was and so forth. And I said to him, hey, please come out and interview me. Because I not only want to talk about this, I want to talk about some of the other things I'm involved in. The only responsible person, quote-unquote responsible, who has contacted me or done any follow-up that I've furnished this report to is Stephen Jones, McVeigh's attorney. A nice letter back from him. You will be contacted in the future and so on and so forth. And as a matter of fact, his investigators have already interviewed my associate and me.
Nationally syndicated talk host Anthony Hilder compared the Oklahoma bombing to the Reichstag fire in Germany in 1933, which was committed by one political faction and successfully blamed on the opposition. Hilder was one of the first to interview Ted Gunderson after the Oklahoma City tragedy.
Is this something that occurred as a result of talk show hosts like myself inspiring some crazies to get out there and take out a federal building, or is this not, in fact, something that was set up for the purpose of frightening the population of this nation into surrendering our rights for a new world order?
I'll have to say, in all honesty, in all sincerity, there's no question in my mind, and this is my opinion, that an incident occurred or was established or happened that was planned, and the purpose of that was to enrage the American public and to make sure and force Congress to pass anti-terrorism legislation, which we do not need, but which at the same time would imperil our civil liberties and further erode our civil rights and help destroy what we believe in our Constitution. You know, they're encouraging and asking that new legislation be passed, anti-terrorist legislation. I have with me the guidelines of the current guidelines of the FBI in investigating terrorist acts. These guidelines are more than adequate to investigate what we have, any potential acts in the future.
Will you say that right into the camera?
Yeah, these guidelines here are more than adequate to investigate any terrorist group, domestic or foreign, that comes into the United States. There's no question about it. I've reviewed them. I haven't had an opportunity to review these in 15 years. I reviewed them just the other day. They just would work perfectly. There's no problem with it. There's no reason for any new legislation.
For nearly 30 years, you were on one side of the fence, and then suddenly you're coming out on the other and actually accusing your former employers. Why are you doing this?
For 45 years, 28 years as an FBI agent and 16 years or 15 years since, I've never changed positions. I've always been on the right side. I'm the seeker of the truth. When I was in the FBI, I sought the truth. When I got out, I still seek the truth. So it's not me being against the FBI. I'm against anybody who is not being honest.
Ex-Bureau Chief Gunderson fears that certain people in the government are intentionally withholding and diverting information.
Now, we apparently have an element within the government. I don't want to chastise the whole government, but we apparently have an element within the government that doesn't feel this way. And they're putting out this disinformation. And I think it's a horrible situation. I think someone needs to really delve into it. There are some good people in the government, too, so I don't want to chastise all of them.
You left the FBI at a relatively early age. I would presume you were probably in your 50s after nearly 30 years. Why did you retire so young? Were you under a cloud of any type, or was there some kind of corruption that you couldn't stomach within the FBI at the time?
No, I've never been involved in any corruption, knew of no corruption when I was in the FBI. It was a great organization. I had a fantastic career. I'd get up in the morning and shave and I'd say, I can't believe they're paying me to go to work today, that sort of thing. And I retired because I was 50 years of age, and I had mandatory retirement at age 55. So I said, well, why should I wait another 5 years? I'll get out now. And I did. The only problem I've had since I got out is there's been a disinformation program aimed at me by unknown sources within the government. Like I've been accused of being a homosexual and being involved in suffering from mental problems and being forced out of disgruntled employee, that sort of thing. But none of it is true. None of it's true, absolutely not.
Microcom